swinging a drive, right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley-Jean.
All righty, Cub fans, you are listening to the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast. Don't forget to smash the follow, subscribe, and all of that. You could follow me at Crawley's Cubs on X, Blue Sky and TikTok, and Crawley's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. You can email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. Dustin should be joining us momentarily. We got some other special guests kind of come in, so I'm glad you're all here to talk a little bit of Cubs. Let's talk about expectations coming into the series with the Brewers, right? I mean, this was looking bad, to be honest with you. The Brewers, when they came into Chicago, had won 14 of their previous games in a row. They had a 14-game winning streak until they finally lost that, and then they had won 6 series in a row, and the Cubs in that same stretch were 6-9 and were 2-4 in their last 6 series. So you're saying to yourself, all right, this is not good. Let's try to at least look respectable. I mean, I wasn't expecting for the Cubs to do anything against the Brewers. I'm not going to lie. And it looked even worse, right? You had Cade Horton in game 1 going on the mound, the best Cubs starter since the All-Star break, right? He was 4-0 in 5 games started and had a minuscule .32 ERA. In his last 5 starts, he only gave up 1 run, and he didn't even allow that to score, right? That was an inherited run that scored. Last time the Cubs faced Peralta in Milwaukee, I was up there, and the Cubs tagged him for 5 runs in 4 innings, and that was the last loss before Milwaukee went on that crazy 14-game winning streak. And this series could not have started out any worse for the Cubs, right? 3rd inning, Cade Horton's on the mound, 1 out. Bryce Terang hits a homer to put the Cubs up 1-0. And we're going to say Bryce Terang's name a lot. He had a great series. But then Cade's going to give up a double to Caleb Derwin. And you could see Horton's looking at his hand. He's looking at his hand. You could tell that something wasn't right. So Tommy Hotovy comes out to talk to him. He gets William Contreras to ground out, but then he completely loses control. He walks Yelich on 4 straight pitches. They weren't even close to the zone. He hits Andrew Vaughn with the pitch, and that's it. His day's done. He leaves with Drew Pomeranz, Drew Pomeranz comes in, gets out of the jam. But now the Cubs are without arguably their best pitcher so far the second half. And so you got to ask yourself, what is this injury going to mean for the Cubs right here? And so this is what Cade Horton had to say after that performance.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. Big series, big game. And just the competitor in me wants to be out there and try to give my team a chance to win. But obviously, it's probably better looking at it from a bigger picture to go ahead and call it, before it gets worse and end up missing, a lot of time for it. So take it day by day and get it better.
I mean, I saw this graphic on Marquee, and I don't know if anyone else saw this right here, comparing rookie seasons. Cade Horton, Mark Prior. So Mark Prior was a rookie. I was there when he debuted in 2002 versus the Pirates. And then Cade Horton in 2025. And if you take a look at their rookie seasons, you can see Horton had a better ERA than Prior, and their whip is almost identical, 0.01% difference, and the walk rate was exactly the same. So to me, we've seen this evolution of Cade Horton, and to lose him at the beginning of the series. Now, keep in mind, you got a doubleheader, right? That night you had that doubleheader. So this looks like a disaster. And so, the Cubs are able to stay in it, but they're not putting in their varsity bullpen. They brought in two guys that were called up from Iowa that day, Luke Little and Gavin Hollowell. They were both called up, and let's just say it didn't look good for either of them. So Assad was optioned because he has options to AAA Iowa, and then Luke Little was brought up, and Gavin Hollowell was going to act as the 27th man. And needless to say, it didn't go good for either pitcher. As far as Luke, he went 2 innings, but he gave up 1 run on 1 hit. He walked 2, and he struck out 4. Now, Luke's performance wasn't awful. He just lost it for a little bit, walked 2 guys, and then he gave up a little grounder that he couldn't get a lane to the first baseman, and it caused an error. I think he should have pocketed the ball. Either way, the next inning he came out, he struck all 3 batters that he faced. And then all of a sudden you have Gavin Hollowell, and it was a disaster. I mean, you're talking 2 innings, 3 hits, 4 walks, 2 Ks, a wild pitch, and as my partner Dustin likes to say, a partridge in a pear tree. An absolute disaster for those guys. They would
Crawley,
be.
Why do they hate? Why do they hate Jordan Wicks? I still don't understand. He got brought up in the second game. You know, he finally got brought up in the second game, but I just don't understand why you would not have gone to Jordan Wicks before you would have went to Luke Little or Gavin. I don't get it. They must hate Jordan Wicks.
It's a good question as far as why Jordan didn't get to see the field, but it was definitely a bizarre one. But Dustin, as bad as the pitching was, the offense was worse, right?
Absolutely worse. Absolutely worse. Yep.
Suzuki had a single in the first inning. They didn't have another hit until the 7th when Owen Casey, making his first start at Wrigley, hit a single. That was it. 2 singles all day. Now, they had a chance in the bottom of the 4th.
Tying a season low, right? Tying a season low?
Mm-hmm. Yes. They had 1 chance to score in the bottom of the 4th, 1 out. Freddie Peralta loses command, walks to bases loaded, but Owen Casey struck out and Nico lined out. But that was it. But Dustin, the real story of the day was Kyle Tucker, another frustrating day, 0 for 4, consistently grounding out to the right side of the infield like peak Jason Hayward. And not only that, he didn't run out a ground ball, and the Wrigley faithful.
Ooh, did they give it to him?
They gave it to him bad. And I haven't seen Craig Counsell so upset in a series in his, year and a half, year and 3/4, whatever the line is here. But this is what he said immediately after the game about Kyle Tucker.
Kyle's frustrated as well. And I think that's the fans are frustrated and Kyle's frustrated. And it's unfortunate because, Kyle's, when you make outs, it doesn't look great, but he's trying. He's just not, it's not clicking. I think we're going to have to take a little step back here for sure. And, just give him some days off to reset him, hopefully. Because he's frustrated and he's not, we're not coming up with solutions for him and he's not coming up with solutions. So, sometimes you have to take some steps back to go forward again.
Wow. And so to me, that was just unbelievable, Dustin. But here's the thing that we're looking up, and I'm going to pull this up a couple times here because this is just telling. This is from my guy, the Wrigley Wire, on X. In his last 30 days, Kyle Tucker slashing 181, 323, last 30 games slashing 181, 323, 238. His last 15 games, he's slashing 148, 233, 148. And in his last 7 games, .080, .179, .080. That's like John Lester offensive production. for a guy, I'm not kidding. I'm being
great
serious.
line. That's a great line. That's a great line, Crawley.
That is John
really
Lester
is.
production there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you just, and then he keeps putting him, 3rd in the lineup.
Well, that's the part I don't understand. Is he allowed? Is there something in the contract that we don't know about that either he has to bat 2nd or 3rd if he's in the lineup? I just don't understand. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And lately, the birthday boy Craig Counsell, you can't ask him anything. He's gotten real short lately, right? He's gotten real short. Now, it's the whole thing was handled really, really poorly. The explanation, like the question still stands. When he finally sat down, right? Did Craig Counsell sit him down? did he finally tell Craig, listen, I've tried everything. I need to sit down? These are the things. This is the inquiring minds want to know, right? How did this work? How did this work? This goes all the way back supposedly till June 1st.
Yeah.
Right. So they gave him today is October 20 or today is August 21st. So you're talking like 6 weeks. This should have been worst case scenario. This should have happened 3 weeks ago to get him ready for this big 5-game series against the first place Brewers.
Yeah, Dustin, and I can just tell you, I believe it's Craig Counsell that made that call on that, not Kyle Tucker.
To finally sit down,
to sit him,
okay.
and you could tell right after the game. And Dustin, I will never forget that 17 minutes of rain in Game 7 of 2016. That was
another Jason Hayward reference, right? Yeah,
right. But
I was told it was unfair. I was told by David Haw and Mully that it was unfair to make that comparison. You know, changing his number to 4-3. I said, forget about 4-3. Just change his number to 3. He grounds out to first base. He doesn't even get it to second. He rolls that ball over to third base or first base, and the first baseman steps on the bag. That's what he's been doing nonstop.
Well, Dustin, I think just like that 17 minutes of rain, I think the rain out on Monday night was godsend. I think that if they would have played it, it would have been I think it would have been we'd have a totally different conversation if they tried to play that game.
Agreed. They would have lost both ends of that. They would have lost both ends of that doubleheader.
And who knows where it would have gone from there.
Right, from there, right? Absolutely, right. Mm-hmm.
You clear your head Tuesday morning, the sun's out again, and I had a good feeling about the Tuesday game, the morning game, right? The Cubs were going with all-star Matt Boyd, while the Brewers were starting Chad Patrick as their 27th player for the doubleheader. And Patrick had a record of 3-8 with a 3.61 ERA.
Right,
and
you're going into it, you feel like if you're not going to get it now, when the hell would you get it?
Right. The other thing that made me feel happy, how about this lineup? Bush, Happ, Suzuki, Crow Armstrong, Willie Castro, Owen Casey, Dansby Swanson, Reese McGuire, and Matt Shaw. Not the greatest.
Yeah, but I did find it odd. And again, Ian Happ needed a day off, right? No doubt about it. But he gave Happ and Tucker, right? And who else? Somebody else. Like three regulars the day off in that game.
Well, you got a doubleheader, so sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. You had Nico, who was sitting down. You had Tucker.
Dansby. I'm sorry, it was Dansby and Ian Happ were both sitting down because Nico played shortstop in that game.
So in game 2, Dansby played shortstop, and I got.
That was game 1. I'm sorry, that was game 1 when he had the weird lineup. He sat Swanson and Happ in game 1. That's right. Right. That's what it was.
And so. I felt confident about that. And with Owen Casey getting his first start at Wrigley, the Cubs load the bases in the first, and the big redhead Rojo hits a single to put the Cubs up 2-0. They would add on in the third. Willie Castro with a big 3-run home run. Cubs up 5-0. But if you've been watching what the Brewers have been doing, they keep coming back. They do not quit on that team. They scored 4 unanswered runs. And I got to tell you, Matt Boyd has had his struggles against the Brewers, Dustin. I will say he's. Especially the last 2 starts.
Everybody's had their struggles against the Brewers, right?
Yeah. But let's hit a solo home run in the 4th, Frelick with an RBI single in the 5th. And then they scored 2 in the 6th off of Boyd and Brad Keller. But in the bottom of the 6th, Owen Casey, it's his first MLB home run to give the Cubs a little breathing room. Daniel Palencia comes out in the 9th. And with 1 out, he gives up a walk and a single. Cubs killer Willie Contreras is up. Brewers fans have gotten so used to amazing comebacks, but Palencia got him to ground into a double play, and the Cubs win game 1, 6-4. And if you take a look at it, all the runs scored were from Willie Castro and Owen Casey.
Yep.
So a nice little thing. Now, Don, I was at game 2. Okay. I was at game 2, and you're saying to yourself, ooh, Brandon Woodruff against Jameson Taillon. On paper, Woodruff's 4-0, hadn't given up more than 2 runs since coming off the IL against Taillon, who was making his first start off the IL. But Dustin, I love this lineup in the second game. Bush at first, Happ left, Say DH, and Crow Armstrong center field, Carson Kelly catching, Nico at second, Owen Casey in right field, Swanson in short, Shaw at third base. And what I really loved, especially with a lot of the guys in the top of the order not hitting, but I did like this bottom of the order of Horner, Casey, Swanson, and Shaw. I thought that was a great mix. I really liked that lineup coming into it. So, I went in with an open mind and said, all right, let's see what happens. And just as I suspected, it doesn't start off good with 2 outs. The Brewers have a nice 2-out rally. Andrew Vaughn, who has now become the second coming of Barry Bonds, he hits an RBI single. Cubs are down 1-0. Bottom of the first 2 Cubs reached. They have runners in second and third, 1 out, don't score. But in the bottom of the second, Nico walks, and who else? Owen Casey singles to tie the game. Now, Casey would score on a 2-out double by Michael Busch. Cubs up 2-1. Bottom of the fifth, 2 on, 2 out for Mr. Clutch, Nico Horner. He hits an RBI single to make it 3-1. And Dustin, there's just nobody you'd rather, this is from Tony Andracki, no one you would rather have up than Nico Horner. Now, Nico wasn't himself last year. He was playing through an injury, and you could see how this number dipped. But if you look at runners in scoring position by year, I mean, this guy is hitting for most of his career over 300 with runners in scoring position. And when he has 2 outs and runners in scoring position, he's even better. So this year he's hitting 379 with runners in scoring position, 310 with runners in scoring position, 2 outs. But I mean, the guy is just a machine when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, but he seems like he's always batting like 6th. Like, why not get up a little bit higher? Just a little bit.
I like where he is. I wouldn't change, honestly, the lineup that we saw in this game, and it's going to be repeated in game number 4.
That's your repeat lineup right now?
That's my repeat lineup, and it should have been the repeat lineup today. We'll get to that. But, just looking at it, I just love what he brings. And then with runners at second and third, Counsell takes out Owen Casey and pitch hits Justin Turner. Dustin, this was Owen Casey's day up to that point. He was 2 for 4 in game 1 with a run, 3 RBIs.
Strictly a matchup, right? Just strictly the whole righty-lefty thing,
lefty.
Right? That's all that was. And Craig, I'll tell you what, Crawley, he had a fantastic day. So that will be his strike 2, but he was like 8 for 10. I'm talking about Counsell. And as well as anybody, like, I don't sing his praises very often, but starting with the pregame, he was awesome. Talking about facing challenges head on, taking things on. Every move he made seemed to work, right? Everything he touched worked out. And that one was kind of meh. But
I'll just tell you this. Sometimes I wish you wouldn't go all the time with the numbers, and sometimes go with the
oh
field.
Gosh. Right. He is so the numbers guy. I mean,
yeah. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to have a feel.
Right.
Have a little feel, right? And what does Justin Turner do? He hits one to the pitcher. Great. Righty, lefty, blah, blah, blah. Bottom of the 6th, Matt Shaw triples. Dustin, where I'm sitting in my seats, I'm watching him, and he slides in. He's screaming at the dugout. He has brought such energy to this team. He scores on a Michael Busch fielder choice. First baseman sends it home. It's a little bit high. He gets under there. And then when he scores, he's screaming into the dugout, having fun.
Wow. Let's go, right? Let's go.
Yep.
There was a little bit more. There was a little bit more than that, but it was let's go.
On the mound, Jameson was spectacular. He struggled, and I'm watching his pitch count through the first 2 innings. I'm like, this guy's not going to make it through the 4th. But then, Dustin, he sits down 11 Brewers in a row, starting with the 3rd out in the 2nd inning, and he's just mowing them down quickly. And he sat down 13 of the final 14 hitters he faced. He got a quality start, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks. I mean, how great was it to have J-Mo back?
That was great, and that was a quality start. That's the definition of a quality start right there. He was great. He got out of that first couple innings like you've talked about. It's fantastic the rest of the way.
Now, I'll tell you, the Brewers still think they got the mojo. They think they can win and come back from every game, right? With 2 on and 1 out, Taylor Rogers is on the mound in the 7th inning. Sal Frelick hits one to the outfielder, Willie Castro, who came in to play right field after a Turner pinch hit for Owen Casey. He perfectly camps under it. He kind of gets his momentum going. He guns it, and he guns down Bryce Terang at home, the old 9-2 double play. Again, Dustin, I'm watching them come off the field, and the whole team is fired up. They're just screaming. And that was the last threat from the Brewers that game, as the Cubs are going to take this one 4-1. How about this rare one, Dustin? A double fly the W. Right.
One of the best things you're ever going to see. That's a classic pitch. That's a classic picture right there, Crawley.
Yeah,
You need to get that. You need to get that framed and somehow print out your ticket to that second game. I don't know if that's possible these days. Are there such a thing?
yeah,
Like,
you can do it on your you can do it on your app. You can order a
okay.
commemorative ticket. Yep,
Yeah,
you can
that's cool.
100%
I would
do it.
do that. I would do that. I'm gonna suggest your next memorabilia.
Now, here is what Owen Casey had to say about that outing.
It's pretty cool. Hearing them chant my name, and yeah, it was, give them praise, but it was pretty cool. Yeah.
So, Big Red Machine, you're saying to yourself, all right, Owen Casey, how much playing time is he going to get? And so I'm saying to myself, okay, let's see what happens on the next game. Let's see what happens. Is Owen Casey going to get another start? And Dustin, exactly what I wanted. He did it again. Here we go. Boom. Same lineup, same exact lineup from the night game. Again, loving that bottom half of the lineup. And you looked at the pitching matchup. And again, Jacob Mizorowski, there's controversy over he should have been an all-star, not been an all-star. I don't know. And Colin Ray. And in the bottom of the second, Colin Ray walks the bases loaded with one out, but he gets a ground out, which scored a run and a pop out. But Dustin, that's one of those Pat Hughes turning point moments. It could have been way worse. Way worse.
Oh my gosh, Crowley! The game could have been completely different. Completely different.
So you're down 1-0, but you're facing Mizorowski. The kid's throwing 100, 101, 102, but he loses command in the third inning. He walks the bases loaded. How about Michael Busch clears them with an RBI double, Cubs up 3-1.
What a great piece of hitting that was.
The pitching wasn't great, Dustin, for either team. Ray was in and out of trouble a lot, but he made the pitches when he needed to. And Mizorowski had a lot of traffic, but, he made that one mistake to Busch, and that was it, and that cost him.
Made him pay.
Now, the Brewers would pull within one run in the sixth. Christian Yelich leadoff walk. He ends up on second. Ray's pulled. Price Terang, who had a great series, like I said, he hits an RBI single. But the Cubs get a little insurance run in the bottom of the eighth. Matty Shaw with the solo home run to give the Cubs a little breathing room. And JD made a comment on the broadcast, Dustin. He said, the best trades sometimes are the ones that you don't make. You remember everybody screaming, we got to get Eugenio Suarez from Arizona. What would you have done? Because right now, Matt Shaw leads the Cubs in runs, triples, home runs, RBIs, extra base hit, slug, and OPS.
Well, he's kind of taken over PCA's role from the first half, right? A
Right,
young guy who's had a nice half of a season.
If you would have traded to get Eugenio Suarez, Eugenio Suarez would have been your third baseman. Look at the numbers for Eugenio Suarez. He's
totally struggling. Yep. Totally struggling.
I mean, I trust me, I would have been fine getting Eugenio Suarez, myself. But that to me was just mind blowing to see, just how much he has meant to this offense, both just through the numbers, right? If you're just looking at numbers and we're looking, most hits, most this, most that. But more than anything, Dustin, just the energy I feel like he brings to each game has just been phenomenal. He just gets everybody fired up.
You can't measure it. Right. You can't measure it. Right. He and Casey and Crowley, maybe the team probably knew what was going on behind the scenes with Kyle Tucker. And maybe they're a little bit pumped up that he's not out there taking a spot of a guy who's, better equipped to play. That doesn't mean that person's better than Kyle Tucker, but 100% of, just as an example, 100% of Owen Casey, probably better than 65, 70% of Kyle Tucker.
Now, I agree 100%. And, that run proved to be important, that solo home run, because Daniel Palencia comes in the ninth. They're playing a little gasolina. He's got a new little light montage, all this stuff.
Now, is that a little much? I mean, does he deserve that yet? I mean, I don't know. I didn't say it wasn't fun. But every time, I mean, he's more Hector, heart attack Hector right now.
No, he's not Hector Neris. Neris couldn't pump those fastballs in. He's been a lot more steady than Neris ever was. The only trouble, Dustin, that I have with him is that sometimes when he's trying a little bit too hard, he overthrows. And he's just got to learn to trust his stuff a little bit. But that's the thing you have when you have a young closer, right? He gets one out, strikes out Anthony Ziegler, but then he gives up a single, gets another strikeout. But then he gives up a single to Danny Jansen, but he was falling behind a lot of hitters. He walks Sal Frelick. He walks Isaac Collins. It's a 3-4 game. But William Contreras, Cub killer, lines out and Nico snags it. Oh my God, Dustin, my heart literally like my stomach. I couldn't take it. I really
It wasn't
couldn't.
routine. That was not a routine hit. That was not a routine ball that came at Nico, right?
No.
That was twisting and doing all kinds of a lot of movement on that ball.
Now, I will say, Dustin, now I'm pumped up, right? Cubs have taken 3 in a row, and now they're making the move on the Brewers, right? They're taking 3 in a row. All righty, here we go. Knockout punch. Mama said knock you out, right? And this is what Craig Counsell, the birthday boy,
the birthday boy,
rolls out here. And I'm sitting to myself going, wait a sec, Kyle Tucker's back. You're taking out, you don't have, it just blew my mind.
Owen Casey's out. Right? Why is Suzuki? Why not give Suzuki a day off? And why, if you bring Kyle Tucker back, why does he have to bat second?
And again, is he ready? Is he ready? And what I could tell you from what I saw, he's not. He's not. And Tom Cooper agrees with you right here, saying that you think that Seiya should sit a few games. I don't know. He's struggling. Everybody's struggling. You can't sit everybody, but there's no reason that the guy's hitting.
Let's just start with one. Let's just have him sit for one game, right? Let's just start somewhere.
Unbelievable to me, though, that and Matt Shaw was the other guy sitting. That was what I was looking at.
Matt Shaw's out. I mean, you sit the two guys that have carried you to 2 of those wins, Owen Casey and Matt Shaw, and you sit them down.
And Dustin, you need this win today. It changes everything if you get this win today. You're 5 game back instead of 7. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. And you wanted to rest Matt Shaw. Let him rest after the plane trip to Anaheim.
Yeah, the 5-hour flight that they're on right now.
5-hour flight. Get him used to the time zone. Give him the day off on Friday. You needed him, and you didn't have him. And Dustin,
today's game means much more than the game.
Right.
Friday or Saturday in Anaheim.
And take a look at the pitcher you're facing on Friday. We'll talk about him. That's a game where I'm okay resting Matt Shaw, but not in this one. Bryce Trang hits a 2-run homer off Shodi Managa. That's the only mistake he's going to make. 7 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. That should win you a ball game. But with this lineup back with, Tucker and Suzuki and all this stuff, it went back to the same dead ass approach that's been hurting them for a month. They only had 5 hits. They were 0 for 8. With runners in scoring position and stranded 11 base runners. Bases loaded in the second, 2 outs. You can't score. 2 on in the fourth, 2 outs. Couldn't score. Bases loaded, 1 out in the fifth. A sac fly, the only run of the game. Kyle Tucker, 0 for 4, a walk. He hit into a double play and had 0 power. Dustin, the Brewers would have had 2 big runs in the 8th off Ryan Brazier, which another mistake on Jed Hoyer's part on that. That hasn't played out well. And then, the Brewers take it 4-1. And Dustin, I try to keep a pretty mellow look at things. I understand, how big the season, how long the season is. Here's what Counsell had to say.
I mean, I described the series as we kind of held serve. We probably needed a little bit more, but we win 3 out of 5, and that adds up 3 wins. But today stings a little bit. To get in today's game, obviously, would have been a big one, and they played a better game than us.
You did that. That's on you, Craig. I don't know. Now, again, to be fair, I don't know if Jed Hoyer made a phone call down. I don't know anything of the behind-the-scene things. Maybe we'll find out. But to me, that's on you. When you rolled that lineup up, to me, that was a problem.
Yeah, not the lineup that's going to win you many games at this moment. Now, he would argue that that's the lineup that got them to this point, right? That's what his argument would be. He's clearly a player's manager. There's no doubt about that, as a longtime former big league player himself. But that one's hard to explain.
Dustin,
They had opportunities. They had opportunities again. They just couldn't cash in.
Dustin, big leaguers like winning. And you did not give yourself the best chance. Imagine how fun that flight would have been today if you would have had the Brewers reeling on a 4-game losing streak. You're now only 5 games back. That was your opportunity to go for the kill, and you didn't do it. And
you took your foot off the throat, right? You took your foot off the gas. You took the foot off the throat. However you want to look at it.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us those 5-star reviews. You can email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com if you have any questions or you want us to talk about anything. You can catch us on Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. Hit the subscribe and alert button because that'll let you know when we're going live and doing these live shows. We love doing them. And Dustin, when we take a look at the NL Central, it's kind of what we were talking about. 7 games back just doesn't, it has a different ring than 5.
The door, Delaney.
It's a different feel than 5 games. And so the Brewers are in first place by 7 games. The Reds 13 back and the Cardinals 17, Pittsburgh 26.
Do you think they've put enough room between themselves and the Reds? Are you now, Crawley, is your focus on the wild card versus the division at this point?
If you've ever played Texas Hold'em, there's a saying in Texas Hold'em, never leave yourself just one out, right? Don't have just one possible way to win a hand. Try to get multiple different ways. I'm not going to concede the division. We've seen crazier things. I remember what happened to the Cubs in 2023 when they had a 92% chance of making the postseason and blew it. I mean, that can happen. We've seen it happen to us. It can happen to the Brewers just as easily.
Right.
Now, again, they have some pretty darn good pitching. And Dustin, when I watch the Brewers, I'm watching them and I'm saying to myself, God, just their approach and how pesky they are. I thought the Cubs did a really good job this series of being pesky and driving up pitch counts. They faced some really, really tough pitchers and they drove up pitch counts, got guys out of there, got some big hits. If they can go back to that strategy as opposed to what we saw today, I think even today they got the starter out early. Okay. After in the 5th inning.
Yes, they did.
I think there's still a chance to do this, but again, you can't have Happ, Suzuki, Tucker, PCA all struggling. It's not going to work when half your team's struggling offensively. And so when you're asking about the wild card right now, the Cubs are in the top spot in the wild card. They're up by about, a game for first. They're about a game away ahead of the Padres. And then you got the Mets right behind there, but then the Reds are half a game out of that final spot. But when you're talking about it, I like the fact that the Cubs have an opportunity to potentially still make it into the wild card. And you just want to get that series at home, the wild card series at home. If you can do that and not have to be on the road, I think that'll make a big difference personally.
Yeah. Home field advantage, a little home cooking. Yeah.
And Dustin, I did get my email today, for those of you wondering, to pay for my postseason tickets. So it's that time of year. And so I will be purchasing my postseason tickets and hopefully get to use as many as I can. Right.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Now, Dustin, with all this craziness, with how big this series was, to me, I kind of just almost blocked this out of my head, but tomorrow we're laying to rest number 23. There is going to be a public viewing of Ryan Sandberg's private funeral services. Obviously, Rhino was a very private guy, and I didn't think it was going to be open to the public. I'm trying to remember whose was open to the public. Was it Santos or Ernie?
I feel like
I think it's Ernie.
Santos. I think it was Santos.
Ronnie, I can't remember off the top of my head. One of them had it open, the other did not, but they did the, where they took the Hertz around Wrigley and stuff like that. But Rhino, you can watch it on the marquee, 9:30 to 12 p.m. The service begins at 10 a.m. at Gallagher Way. No ticket is required. The Sandberg family saying in lieu of flowers, bring non-perishable food items to Gallagher Way, which will be donated to Nourishing Hope and Most Blessed Trinity Food Pantry. I really like this, Dustin, because it gives the Cub fans that want to go a place to grieve and feel like part of it and doing something for Rhino, I think is really kind of cool. And, I know a lot of his teammates have flown in the last 24 hours. So they're flying in, a lot of them right now, and a lot of them are kind of hanging out together right now. And my thoughts are with his teammates and obviously his family and just for Cub fans in general. This is, like I said, when you have such a big series like this one, I say to myself, hey man, you just forget a little bit. It just wasn't forefront in my mind,
Right, right. It's not staring you in the face. Also saw a good, obvious shirt with Big Red for Owen Casey,
Yeah.
with the little kind of the tag from the Big Red gum days. If you're of a certain age, you probably remember that, what that looked like. Also, 670 the score, probably doing a 10 to noon coverage of the event. Chuck Swirsky and Mark Grody anchoring tomorrow. So if you can't make it, if you're in the car, if you're on the app, you could listen to it on 670 the score as well.
And Dustin, another thing that I thought was cool, it's going to be on Marquee, which we kind of figured. But the other thing it's going to be on is WGN. And I just smiled when I heard that.
Yeah, pretty wild. I guess it was made available to all local stations. So, local Fox, NBC, CBS, ABC, everybody had the opportunity to take it if they so chose. And very cool that WGN's taking it, because obviously he played so many games on Superstation.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I really, to me, it's like how many of us grew up, watching WGN. I mean, it's in the Steve Goodman song, right? You can catch it all on WGN, which I still kind of laugh about a little bit because you're sitting there saying to yourself, no, you can't anymore. But to me,
let's change
growing
the
up.
lyrics.
Yeah. Growing up though, Harry Carey, Ryan Sandberg, Rick Sutcliffe, Jody Davis, it all kind of came in there. And so I'm going to sit there and I am going to try to watch. I'm not going to go down there, but I really,
Yeah, I was going to ask how you were going to deal with it.
I'm going to watch it and I'm sure I'm very curious as who's going to be speaking and stuff like that. But I went to an autograph show in Rosemont, the national show a little while back. And when I went there, Rick Sutcliffe was there, and it was the first show he had done. And I can't even tell you how long, Dustin. I don't even know. And it was right after Rhino passed. So Rhino passed on Monday. And so this had to be Thursday. And I know he called into the score and he was in tears when he called. And I was wondering if he was going to show up to the signing. I wouldn't fault him for not going there. He was obviously upset. And, I saw him that day and you could tell, you know what I mean? He was putting on the smiles and he was great with all the fans there. I can't tell you. And I can't imagine how hard that must've been, right? Losing a close friend and having to go to a place where you're supposed to be smiling and everybody wants to see you and all that stuff. But he was doing just such a great job. But, Sutton is such a great storyteller. I wonder if he's going to do some talking or, I don't know who, but he is going to be missed. And the one thing I just tell people is don't forget, Obvious Shirts is got the Ryan Forever shirts with the 23. We had Joe on the other day, Joe Johnson on the podcast. So it'll be really cool. And hopefully everything will be going good. But Dustin, obviously, the big story I think that everybody's kind of been talking about lately is Kyle Tucker. And that's kind of the thing right now that's blowing everybody's mind. And how surprised were you when that lineup came out today and you saw that he was in the lineup?
I was more surprised where he was at in the lineup than that he was in the lineup. I thought he might be back, but I also thought he might be DHing. I thought Suzuki would take a day off and that they would have Owen Casey where he was the day before. Again, he doesn't need a day off, right? He's a young man. He doesn't need a day off. So I was shocked that Kyle Tucker was back in right field and batting second, and then they lose, right? And what did Kyle Tucker do? Did he do anything?
What are your thoughts on the booing?
Well, you pay your money, you can do what you want to do to a certain extent. When you're losing. He came out of the lineup and they won 3 games in a row. He came back in the lineup and the lineup was flat. So I get it. I might have booed as well. You would have thought they gave him the reset. If he needed the reset, he was given the reset. I mean, if they needed more, then they should have put him on the injured list and they should have brought Ballesteros up. You're not in a position to just let that guy sit around and linger.
Right.
And not play.
When I take a look at this right now and I'm kind of just saying to myself, it just looked like a different team, Dustin. And again, when you lose and you don't hit well, it looks like it's low energy. But to me, just that not having Shaw, not having Casey, not having that energy,
to me, I feel like that really just was the tail of the game. But Dustin, in other news, MLB and ESPN, I don't know if you saw this, agreed for network to sell out of market and some in market games. Remember that ESPN opted out of their deal, but now it looks like there is going to be a new deal. It's going to be a little bit different, right? And so I don't know exactly what's going to happen. They still think that Netflix is a heavy favorite for the home run derby for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I heard everything's changing, right? Sunday Night Baseball obviously is not going to be ESPN anymore. That's the hardest thing. It's hard to keep track of, right? Why can't they get I don't know. I guess it's all these networks are paying a ton of money, right? And then the owners split it up. Players are going to get their share in the new collective bargaining agreement. But it's hard when you got to watch, NFL is doing the same thing. You got to have about seven different channels in order to watch every NFL game, unless you go ahead and buy like Sunday Ticket.
Yeah. And the other thing that I take a look at, Dustin, what scares me when you talk about collective bargaining agreement, I told you what the Cubs are doing now is they send something to season ticket holders where if you are a season ticket holder and you purchase for the next 3 years season tickets, you're guaranteed. If you are a full season ticket holder, you get to go to the All-Star game and the home run derby. If you are a partial season ticket holder, meaning like you get the half program. So there's different like levels, right? So like if you are if you're somebody that gets half the games, then you get a choice of either the All-Star game or the home run derby. So if you have a half season or combo plan, that's what you get. And if you have one of the 20 games or double play plans, you get nothing on that. So it's for me.
When do you have to make that commitment? When do you have to make that commitment?
My understanding is shortly, like in a couple of weeks, because you got to pay for your postseason.
Okay.
Now, if you don't want to do the postseason, I'm not sure exactly when that kicks out. I don't think you have to do postseason, but as far as this is concerned, you have to buy your postseason by September 17th. Okay. And then the way that works is anytime the Cubs have a postseason game, you have the tickets, but let's say they get eliminated in the first round, you can take that money and roll it into next year's. But that opportunity to get the All-Star game, that's what I've been waiting for. So, that's what I've been waiting all these years.
So you have 2 seats, right, Crowley?
Yes.
Right. So you're not going to have the opportunity to buy more than 2.
Not to my understanding, no. This is going to be tough because with MLB, it's you got this thing where you have all the people, the sponsors, all this stuff. It's not just going to be all the MLB gets an allotment of tickets, the sponsors get an allotment of tickets, and Wrigley's not a huge stadium to begin with, right? So I feel that it is going to be one of those tricky things that you're looking at and you're saying to yourself, I'm just going to try to get whatever I can get and hopefully I get lucky. And I'd like to go to both the All-Star game and the Derby. I don't know if that's going to be possible. With my ticket package, I'm going to get one of the 2.
All right. If you have the choice, have you made that firm choice yet? Are you definitely going to the game or are you going to the Derby? I know we've talked about it, but now that you actually might have to make a real decision. If you're watching Crawley right now on Crawley's
sweating.
YouTube page.
I would say more than anything, I had always said I wanted to go to the home run derby, but after this last All-Star game where they had the swing off, and you had mentioned before about the possibility of going to Waveland or Sheffield. I don't know if they're going to have that open to the public, Dustin.
Right. Again, that's something you'd have to know ahead of time, right? Or are they going to make that a ticket for the home run derby? Shut those streets down, but have an entrance on all those blocks where you'd have to pay, I don't know, $25-$50 just to get in there. And obviously you can't do it unlimited. There'd be a limit. But I wonder if you could make it where people couldn't exit the park on those streets. So like people going to home run derby would have to watch it from their seats, wouldn't be allowed to have both options, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I would say to myself, hey, I will make that decision. It's going to be a hard one, but either way, just the fact that I'm going to be at Wrigley Field for an All-Star game.
It's pretty cool, pretty special, no doubt about it. Right.
Yeah, it is going to be special. And so, like I said, if it would have been different, who knows? But Dustin, as we talked a little bit earlier, the Cubs are going to be taking on the Anaheim Angels and West Coast games. I know you love those, but at least it's on the weekend, right?
Right. A couple of 8:30, 8:38 our time starts on both Saturday and Friday and Saturday night. And then a 3-ish, right? 3:15, 3:18, kind of weird times on Sunday afternoon. Here's the biggest thing, right? And unless you've seen something different, I've only seen one starter announced so far for the Angels, and
Right.
his name is not Kyle Hendricks. Do you think Kyle Hendricks ends up making a start against the Cubs?
I do not believe so, but here's the thing, Dustin. When you get to this time of year, anything could potentially happen. You never know. It's these guys kind of like move guys up, move guys down, switch things around. You saw what this series was like, right? With the Cubs and Brewers, that was just chaos. And so there's no saying there's not. It would be really cool to see him. The Angels are 61 and 66. They're 8 games behind the Houston Astros. They are 6.5 games back of the wild card. They're 5-5 in their last 10. But the Angels have kind of been a team that, I think has been perennial, just been a disappointment. And when you take
but they're competitive. I mean, this is not going to be a cakewalk, right?
It's not going to be a cakewalk, but Dustin, when I'm looking at the month of August, they've played 6 series. They've played the White Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, Detroit, Dodgers, A's, and the Reds, and they've only won 1 series out of that whole group. You know who they beat?
No.
They swept the Dodgers.
Yeah, gosh, right? Of course they did. That's again. Now that's that's baseball, right? That, as Craig Counsell loves to say, that's baseball.
They couldn't beat the White Sox. They couldn't beat the Reds. They couldn't beat the A's. They couldn't beat the Tigers. Nobody. But they absolutely took 3.
Well, the Dodgers have had a very odd second half, right? They've been kind of shuffling around, but then the Padres jumped them for a day, I think it was, and then they played each other head to head, and the Dodgers ended up sweeping the Padres.
Right. I have no idea what's going on. I just know that with the Angels, again, the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees have all had struggles. You think as Cub fans we have it bad? They have had some bad ones. And sometimes you got to get outside of your own team's bubble to really see, like, yeah, we have it bad, but not saying it's great, but it could be a lot worse. But when we look at some of the things that are going on as far as the Cubs, you'll see why you're so frustrated. It's pretty easy to kind of figure out here. But if you're taking a look here with the Angels, I mean, they're just a team that, to me, they underachieve all the time. At home, they're 34 and 32, so almost 500, and they're 27 and 34 on the road. With teams with winning records, they're 31 and 34. So, for the Cubs, hopefully they can kind of, go in there. And like you said, it's not going to be a cakewalk, but if you want to if we're talking wild card and postseason and all this fun stuff, you have to deliver the goods.
Oh yeah. This is a series you have to win. So what, Crowley, you've done the research. What do Cub fans have to worry about when facing the Angels?
Yeah. Let's take a look here
From a lineup perspective, because we don't know what's going on with the pitching. So it's not even worth speculating there. But as far as when the Cubs are throwing them the ball, who do Cub fans have to worry about hitting the ball hard?
Let's tailor the tape, right? If you're looking at it and you're taking a look at the hitting, which you're talking about right here, you got all sorts of issues right now. Because what I did, Dustin, when we do the tail of the tape, usually we do it over the course of the year. What have they done in the year? And I'm saying, you know what? That's not a good representation right now of what's going on. So instead, I narrowed the search and I just looked at the last 3 weeks. Okay. So if you take a look at the last 3 weeks, the Angels batting average is 226, 24th in baseball. In the last 3 weeks, the Cubs team batting average, 214, 29th in baseball. I mean, that's the problem right there, Dustin. That's why the Cubs are where they are.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Slug, the Angels are 17th in baseball with a 401 slug, and the Cubs are 30th with a 333 slug. And then as far as runners in scoring, so that's 30th. The Cubs are 30th in baseball in slug. This is a team, Dustin, that can't do anything right. They can't hit right. They can't do anything. And so you're sitting here looking at this and you're saying to yourself, how are they going to win if they can't slug and they can't do any of these things? I mean, that's where I'm just kind of trying to figure out, what are we doing, right?
Well, it was slug or nothing, right? It was slug or nothing for a while for this team.
Yeah, and then with runners in scoring position, the Angels are 7th with 283, and the Cubs are 26 with 218. So when you're looking at this, the Angels on paper, hitting wise, are a much better team than the Cubs over the last 3 weeks. But here's the difference, Dustin. And the reason the Cubs haven't had a tailspin as bad as some of the other teams is their pitching, especially their starting pitching, right? The Angels have a 6.47 starter ERA in the last 3 weeks, 27th in baseball.
I was going to say that's got to be near the bottom. Yeah.
And the Cubs have a 2.59, which is second in all of baseball. When we take a look at relievers, it's about the same over the last 3 weeks. The Cubs are 9th at 119, and the Angels are right behind at 123. They're 10th. And when you talk about fielding, the Cubs are second in DRS. This is over the year. DRS is over a year, so I kept that. The Cubs are second at 68, but the Angels defense, Dustin, -40, 28th in baseball. So they have one of the worst starting pitching and one of the worst defenses in baseball.
Well, now, you got to take advantage of that. You have to take advantage.
Right. That when I'm looking at this is what I'm looking at. And so when we look at probables, again, we don't have to go in depth on these here. You got Ben Brown versus Tyler Anderson is the most likely situation. Now, Javier Assad is up. I think he went with the team to California. I'm not sure, again, if they're going to make a move, but because he was optioned, they can't make a move unless they put someone on the IL. So keep that in mind. Okay. And Tyler Anderson is who is supposed to be going for the Angels. When you look at Anderson, he's 2-8 with a 4.47 ERA. The guy is struggling his last few starts against the A's, 4 innings, gave up 4 runs. Against Tampa Bay on 8-6, he gave up 4 runs in 4 innings. So he's not lasting long in games, and he's given up crooked numbers. Now, game 2, this is where it gets tricky for the Cubs. Cade Horton says, I'm good to go. Put me in, Skip. And I haven't heard anything otherwise.
How did he told us he's going? Unless something happens, he's going. Yeah.
Now, I like your idea of a manicurist. Did we get anything from Hadavi on that?
He said it's something they have talked about. They don't have an official one, but he didn't think it was a ridiculous question.
So tell our listeners why you think that the Cubs should hire a manicurist.
Well, it's just, these guys' fingers are super important, right? And we're getting blisters and calluses, and we don't need any Moises Alou jokes with the calluses and how to take care of that. But yeah, I think it's important if you have somebody on staff. If they have barbers on staff, they have cooks on staff. Well, why not have somebody like that on staff to take care of the pitcher's fingers?
Yeah, it's a good question. And then the belief is Jose Soriano's going to make that start. And then the final start would be Jamison Tyone, who had that great start against Milwaukee, against Victor Menderos. But like you talked about, these are all kind of to be determined. As much as we would like it, the Angels are still playing for pride, and they're not going to put Hendricks in there. Menderos is 0-for-1 with a 5.54 ERA. The guy really, he's only started 2 games. He's not anybody that's big. So he was recalled on August 12th. So he's not anybody that drives fear into you, right? He started against the Dodgers. He gave up 3 runs in 4 innings. And then against the Reds, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, 9 hits. So a lot of traffic. So none of these guys that you're facing, you just faced a gauntlet of Mizorowski and Woodruff and Freddie Peralta and Perkins. All these guys you just face. This team, if this series, Dustin, if this series can't get you fired up, can't get you getting some hits, I don't know what can, to be honest with you. I don't know what could fix the offense here. And if the Cubs are going to say, hey, we're going to keep Kyle Tucker in and that finger is not healthy, it's not a good thing. I don't know what we can do. I don't know what we can say. This has got to be it right here. When you talk about who is hot and who is not, obviously there's a couple names that'll probably jump out at you, but there's a couple that might not. Owen Casey is 4 for 13, obviously, with a home run, 4 RBIs. He's slashing 308, 357, 538, small sample size. PCA is kind of warming up a little bit, Dustin. He's 7 for his last 24. The strikeouts are still a little bit concerning, 8 strikeouts to 3 walks, but he's slashing 292, 400, 375. So to me, hopefully he's rounding a corner. And
right.
then
On this team right now, he's doing decent, but he's definitely lost where he was earlier.
Well, before we were talking MVP, right? And that's not anything we're talking about anymore.
No. First half MVP.
Yeah, Ian Happ 6 for his last 22. And, you might say, what about Matt Shaw? He's only 4 for his last 18. He's slashing 222, 286, 500, though. The slug, he's been, he's got a triple. He's got a home run, 2 RBIs.
It's the moments. It's when he's gotten the hits and what happened when he hit the ball.
Right. And he's on base at a 286 clip, which, not bad. So, and he's playing some good defense, but the team in general is hurting, but nobody is hurting more than right now the 2 guys that are killing this team, Seiya Suzuki and Kyle Tucker. Seiya Suzuki, 5 for his last 28, 8 strikeouts, 5 walks, slashing 179, 303, 214. Dustin, what I've noticed is he has gotten demonstrably like just when he is striking, he's getting mad at the plate. He's getting frustrated, and you could see it. Usually you don't see it as much as you are. Him and Kyle Tucker both. Tucker is even worse, 2 for his last 18. He has no extra base hits. He's slashing 111, 238. His slug, Dustin, 111. I mean, this is bad.
That's almost horrific, right? That's almost like DFA type numbers.
And again, this is not who he is. This is not who he is as a player. This is a guy that's playing injured imagine trying to play baseball with a fracture in your hand. This is just dumb. They should have not started him today. They should have put him on the IL retroactive.
But they're claiming that he's been given a green light, that he's got a clean bill of health. At the point when he was playing, but Crawley, they sat there and told the media that he has been given a clean bill of health.
All I can tell you, Dustin, is I've heard this from the Cubs time and time again. And then at the end of the year, they just say, oh, he was injured. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Dansby Swanson had surgery. What? Oh, Nico Horner was injured. He had surgery. Why were these guys playing? And even when you talk about Dansby and the
Dansby, the same thing, though. I mean, Dansby hates to take a day off. So I think he hid a lot of that, what was going on with him. I don't think he was probably honest.
To me, though, with Tucker, they did an MRI. They did two scans on that hand, right? So they've known for a while this is a problem. It's not like, oh, we just found this yesterday. They just didn't say anything. And then they've sat there and watched this guy.
But as a season ticket holder, and obviously as a huge Cub, how does that make you feel? That they didn't tell us, that you were kept in the dark, that you didn't know what was going on. And then I know you're not gambling. I know you're not gambling on this stuff, but enough from being a sports fan, like how big the gambling aspect is, right? And in the NFL, it's like serious business. If they find out that you're, fooling around with the injury list, there's a heavy duty fine. And that's not so the other team can prepare properly. That is for the gamblers.
I don't know much about it. And I get how it all works and stuff like that, but I don't know how much of it was trying to keep Kyle Tucker happy. He's like, yeah, I want to play. I don't know. These are conversations, Dustin, that Jed Hoyer will never tell us.
Another great aspect of this, right? Like, were the Cubs trying to keep him happy, right? They want him to stick around, maybe not at the price tag he wants, but they also don't want to tick him off. They don't want to send him for the hills. So they're trying to appease, a guy who's, talked about as a top at least 10 player in all of baseball.
I don't know, but to me, this hurt his stock more than if he just would have gone on the IL.
I don't disagree with that. All right. We just talked about the Angels and Cubs, Crawley. We care to give a prediction?
I'm going to be positive and say the Cubs sweep, but I will know the answer the second I see a Craig Counsell lineup.
Sweep, huh? Well, I'm not going to be that positive, but I will say they will win the series. This is a tough one to ask, right? It's tough to ask what's going to happen in this series, considering the fact that I think we're very, very unclear as far as who the Cubs would be facing. But the good news, thanks to your research, is that we do know that the starting pitching not very good for the Anaheim Angels. So you're going to sweep. I'm saying 2 out of 3, and we're going to get back together either Sunday or Monday. I think that's the Cubs have an off day Monday, I believe.
Yeah.
So maybe our next one is Monday. We'll review that, and then what after they go to the Anaheim, they go down and they go to Colorado, right? They
No,
got
I
the
believe
Rockies.
it. No. So it's a long. It's one of the. It's probably the biggest West Coast swing that they have
9
all
games,
year.
right? It's 9 games in 10
it's
days.
9 games. So I want to say it's going to be the Giants as well that they're going to be facing.
Okay,
so
so then
Angels,
it's the Angels, the Giants, and then the Rockies.
Yes, and then back
Okay.
for Hotlanta and Chicago.
Atlanta and Chicago. All right, Crowley.
Well, let's just hope, like I said, that the Cubs do what they have to do. Let's take care of business and go Cubs.
All right, we made it work.
We get a little bonus time right here. A little bonus time with Jesse Rogers.
Hey,
Jesse, what's
guys.
going on, buddy?
I'm doing well. What's going on with you?
Hey, Jesse.
I got to tell you, Jesse, we've been frustrated about this whole Kyle Tucker situation, both as, me, being Cub fans, both of us, me being a season ticket holder. I mean, how stunned were you when you started to find out some of the details? You broke the story on your Twitter. How stunned were you when you kind of found out, or did you have a general idea that something like this was going on?
A general idea. I think we all kind of figured something was going on. I mean, we just didn't have a label to it, a diagnosis to it, and I was finally able to get to that, label to it, right? I put a name to it. What is it? What's going on? What's stunning is just how he has struggled, to be honest. I mean, the weirdest part, you probably heard me, and I wrote it, that he wasn't bad in June. After the injury happened, he started to slide in July and then just really, really bad at the beginning of this month. So the whole thing is kind of confusing, mostly because of what happened in June. If he was bad then, he probably goes on the IL, but he played through it, was okay. July's broken up by the All-Star break, so he was not very good early in the month, but he was okay afterwards. He was taking a lot of walks. Not a lot of power, though. So very confusing, but at least we have a name to it. He had a hairline fracture, and that impacted his swing. It just didn't impact it right away, which is the weirdest part of the whole story.
Yeah. It is one of the weirdest stories that we've had to deal with. And just as you know better than anybody, how we find out, we being you, the Score, podcasts, everybody out there, it's so bizarre how it was handled. No direct answers. You guys ask all the right questions. We're not getting the proper answers. And then we were just talking about it. Do you think that counsel probably said, all right, enough's enough, you got to take a seat? Or do you think he said, after getting booed and after not running to first base the other day, hey, Skip, I need a day off? I mean, who do you think finally made the decision to give Kyle Tucker these quote unquote couple mental reset days?
Yeah, I think it was counsel, and I think it was probably a week or two too late. And I think if anything,
exactly.
If anything that about this that the Cubs would probably want to do over on, it would be, sitting him down weeks ago, to be honest, or maybe back then the IL stint made more sense, before it was really healed up. But I think finally counsel went to him this past Sunday and said, look, this is what I'm thinking about. Probably going to give you 2 days off. And then he hit rock bottom on Monday with the booze and the 0 for 4 and 3 ground outs and all that stuff. So I definitely think this was the Cubs going to him. Kyle doesn't seem like the type of player that wants to come out of the lineup, partly because he's probably going to be he's going to be a free agent. And also because he played through it in June and it worked out. So he's probably thinking, I'll get out of this. I'll get out of this. So just the whole combination of things went wrong for him. And here we end up with a player that's struggling mightily and still struggling even after today.
So even after today, you just mentioned that. I think that's where we go next. How surprised were you when you finally saw the tweet? Not only that he was back, but back in right field and batting second.
Yeah, I was a little surprised they just didn't hold him out and put him on, put him in the lineup when they went to the West Coast. You know, I've been saying on the radio over the last couple of days, reset, new scene, new scenery, all that stuff made sense to me. Get him outside of Chicago, to be honest. Let him clear his head on the plane and all that stuff. So I was a little surprised he was back in there today. But Council kind of made him a promise. I'm going to give you 2 days off, and that's going to be your reset. So, look, it's a touchy situation with a star level player in his free agent year. You're trying to win a pennant. There's all these layers to it. And again, he did perform through it for a while. But after Monday, I think Council's like, this is it. We got to sit down at least for a couple of days. But I was surprised it wasn't a little bit longer.
So based on what you just said there, tricky situation, big time player, big time market in a free agent year. Is it too early to start thinking about what this last couple of weeks, how it might impact his future as a Cub, or is that too far down the line? Because I feel like if it was 50-50 in June, 50-50 at the All-Star break, I mean, I know I go a little too far with a lot of things. I think it's like at a 1% chance he comes back at this point with all this stuff that just happened. I think it's almost slim and none.
Yeah. I always thought it was very unlikely. I was never in that camp where this is going to be a long-term marriage, because once they traded for him, that was the time to sign him, not when 29 other teams can start making offers. So I never was in the camp they were gonna sign him. And frankly, I think Tom Ricketts was in his seats and saw a player for $750,000 help win 3 games for them. So I think the replacements, staring us in the face, they're one of their top prospects. I think, Owen's going to take over right field next year, and they're going to get cheap labor there. So I think, this probably seals the deal for a bunch of reasons, but I think that die was cast a while ago.
Now, the other thing we talked about earlier, Jesse, was the fact that, you had this lineup with Casey in it, take 3 games in a row, and then you have this game today, and it looks like you got the knockout punch ready to go. You have a chance to send the Brewers reeling, and all of a sudden, you got the same lineup that's been losing you games for the last month. Were you able to feel the vibe in the clubhouse or anything today, especially after the game? I mean, to me, I was there Tuesday night, just like the energy was just electric. And I heard that Wednesday night was as loud as Wrigley's been since a long time. And then all of a sudden today happens, it's just a dud.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't score, it's a dud, right? No matter what. And I was very much in the camp of playing Casey today over the week against the Pirates. I've told this story several times. Like, I'll going back to when Kyle Schwarber returned in 2016, I remember distinctly Joe Madden telling me, look, we're getting him for a moment in time here. If Kyle Schwarber had to have another 100 at bats, I guarantee you, this is Joe talking, he would eventually struggle, because it's just tough to come back and really, have your timing down for much longer than your adrenaline will allow. Well, I think same thing here with Casey. Capture the moment, play the kid. Let's see what happens on a struggling team. They went 3-0 with him. They went 0-2 without him in this series. What more evidence do we need? So I do think they have not capitalized on this moment. Now, he will struggle at some point, but that point might be next season. And you've got, 2.5 outfielders that are struggling. You have a shortstop that just got pinch hit for. I mean, you've got all sorts of problems in that offense. So, I think they missed a chance to really capitalize on Casey. That's against the Pirates, or even in the 2 games he didn't play against the Brewers.
Do you see any situation where Kyle Tucker does make a IL trip where all of a sudden they just say, okay, look, we've tried this and
I don't. I think that horse has left the barn.
Thingsn.com, you talked about how he was kind of changing his.
All right. Something's freezing up. You guys there? There we go.
We're here.
Yeah, it froze up on me. I look, they keep saying, they say adamantly it's healed up. I don't think so. I don't think so because this is the wrong time to go on the IL. That it should have been a month ago if you were going to do that. William Contreras has played several months with a fracture, and he hasn't hit as well. His exit velo's down a little bit, but Kyle Tucker was having an MVP caliber year, so his drop off is more dramatic here. I'd be surprised if he went on the IL after everything that's happened. I think he's got to hit his way out of it. He hit a soft line drive in his third or fourth at bat, and then a fly ball finally in his final at bat. That was 93 on the exit velo. Nothing special. It wasn't a line drive, but maybe slowly he's going to come out of it here. That's the problem. The only way out of it is for him to swing and hit. I will say maybe he should be lower in the lineup until he figures it out. That could make. I don't look. The lineup seems reversed. Shaw and Miko should probably be at the top, and some of these guys should be at the bottom to get the extra at bat for guys going well. But Craig has been sort of reluctant to do that. But that would make sense to me. Get him out of the middle of that lineup because those ground balls are killing him.
And the other thing, Jesse, that we're taking a look at is that, okay, not only do you have Tucker struggling, but a guy that maybe you're going to find an injury on this guy, but Seiya Suzuki. And I always kind of feel like when Seiya's on, I feel like the Cubs are on, and when he's off, they're off. And it just seems like he's been off for a long time. And you can't sit the whole team, but it's having those guys batting 3-4 is just killing you.
Yeah, I mean PCA. I mean it's a long list of players here. It does feel like when Tucker was going well, everybody around him in his orbit was doing well, and when he's struggled, guys around him have struggled as well. It just has felt off for a while now. I know Ian Happ hitting the ball harder and into some bad luck. He seems like the one guy sort of coming out of it. Tucker, Seiya, and PCA don't seem to be coming out of it. PCA had a moment like early in the series, right, or over the weekend, but it's not consistent, and there's not a lot of slug there. Look, I'm not smart enough to know what's going on, and I think if they knew, they'd fix it. I mean, that's something Kyle has talked about. I do wonder, and I haven't asked anybody really about this. Someone outside the organization in baseball mentioned, like, Tucker has such a unique swing. When it goes south, maybe it's hard for the hitting coaches to help him out of it because it is different than most. But I don't know if that's true because once he gets to the hitting zone, he's pretty good, like most of the top players. So there's a lot of question marks, and I'm with you. I don't know what's going on with Seiya. Would love for him to start dominating again, but we haven't seen it.
Yeah, I thought, he got snubbed for the All-Star game, and then all of a sudden, like I said, it just feels like the whole team has come out flat since there. Jesse, you were talking about Joe Madden and Kyle Schwarber. I know that there's always going to be Cub fans' hope of a return homecoming of Kyle Schwarber to the Cubs. You think that anything like that might happen?
I would never say never, but I doubt it. Owen Casey's a left-hander, so he'll take over for, again, minimal type money. Seiya's going to be the DH for one more year. Happ has one more year. I don't necessarily see them spending $100 million, right before the labor negotiations. I guess if there was an opening somewhere and you could create one for Kyle Schwarber, but it doesn't feel like he's in their plans. I could be wrong, but that would be a heck of a homecoming. I'd be all for it for sure. I just have a feeling that ship has sailed. He'll probably end up back in Philadelphia, is my guess.
And there's more Kyle Schwarber and Joe Madden stories in your book, The Franchise, for anyone that hasn't read it before. I have a copy of it. I think I got it autographed from you too. So I think it's good there. But Jesse, why don't you tell our listeners? Obviously, I think most of them will know where they can find your work.
Yeah, I mean, at ESPN.com and of course ESPN 1000. I'm on daily, depending on the day. It's mornings, Monday and Fridays, midday on Tuesdays, and then afternoons as well with Waddle and Sylvie. So, ESPN.com and the radio as well. We're in the stretch run. It should be interesting for sure. It's weird to have this good of a record with sort of a sour feeling about.
Thank you for jumping on, Jesse. Take care.
That happens. Take care.
Thanks, Jesse.
You got it.
Take care. And that's Jesse Rogers. Glad to have him on, talking a little bit about his big story. Kyle Tucker injured, and Dustin, it just feels like, hey, we're going to try to figure this out, and it looks like they're going to have him play through it. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
That's all we can do, right? We can't move him down. We can't change Craig's mind. So again, you got him sweeping. I've got 2 out of 3, but again, we need to see the lineups and see who the Cubs are going to face. Crowley, enjoy the weekend. We'll catch back up, either Sunday or Monday.
Get the coffee ready, Cub fans. Go Cubs.
It's all over.